Hi, I'm Beth Moeller. I am director of our community living program. Specifically, we call it Connect. And I have been at the ARC for 30 years now, starting out in one of the residential houses.
I'm Marianne Tolliver, and I am the Director of Aging and Navigator of Residential Supports. I've been with the agency for 37 years. I started off working in residential, moved into the director position for 20 plus years, and then moved into this role within the last couple of years. So I have a lot of information on DMH type services. And the one thing that I always share with families is that it's most important to start in looking at a plan. And that should always be your first step. So you know the direction that you want to go and what you want for your family member, because it's a complicated topic. It's not easy to get residential supports through the Department of Mental Health, but not everybody needs that level of support. So you really want to look at what is most important to you and your family member, and what is your vision for a good life. Know what the wants and needs of your family member are, and the level of support that they need. Is it support that's 24/7, or does your family member have the ability to be able to live in their own apartment with fewer number of support hours? And know what those goals and what areas that you really want to focus on and the support that your family member needs. I know there's some people who need level of support that's kind of sandwiched in between those two, and something I know that that we're working towards and trying to come up with some new ideas and opportunities. So looking at the environment that your family member, what you want them to live. Is it an apartment? Is it a house? Is it a condo? And who are they going to live with? That's a really big piece. The type of personality of that individual who they'd want to live with. Is it somebody that they've known in the past and have always wanted to live with? So really taking a look and real rumination on what is most important to your family member. Safety and security. We know that that's always first and foremost in everybody's minds. And it's in so many different ways. I think remote monitoring for people who have opportunities and have the ability to be able to live more on their own and more independently, having remote monitoring at nighttime, which is kind of like a system that's there if somebody needs something, so that they can then tell somebody else to come in because your family member needs some help. Something I know that's just a quick little piece of what that is, but it's something to kind of keep your mind on, to know that it's out there. Community access and transportation is something else to kind of keep in mind. And the other thing is, sometimes it's really easier to say, this is what I don't want if my family member is moving. So looking at that and knowing what those pieces are really important to identify, so that as you start planning, whether it's with Beth, with your support coordinator at the Department of Mental Health, or someone else, it's important to be able to identify what all these goals and wishes are.
Okay, so this is where I'm going to jump in. So if you have attended this residential options seminar in the past, when it has been at the ARC offices, this is where we split into two different rooms, and a large group of people goes to hear what Marianne has to say about funding through the Department of Mental Health. And another group comes with me to talk about everything else for people who are not going to get funding through the Department of Mental Health. And specifically, I talk about funding through Productive Living Board, but I'm just going to take a moment and talk about overall housing and community options. So people who need limited amount of support. So what does that look like? People who can stay alone overnight, people who can be at home for periods of time by themselves. They may or may not have a roommate, but definitely a level of independence. I like to think of it in terms of awareness. So we can put most supports in place to help with lots of different things, but an awareness of the person to call and say, I need some help with whatever it is. An awareness to not answer the door to strangers. So Connect Community Living is for people who can live on their own presently, or we expect that they will be able to live on their own in the future. And I mean, it's a subjective thing. We do have a tool for determining whether someone is relatively safe living on their own, but it's a subjective thing. And a lot of it is, do the parents want this person to live independently, and do they want to live independently? So there's lots of skills that people can build on to move towards that. So I'm going to talk about the funding structure of that. But it's really important that this is for people who are safe enough to live in their own place without 24-hour oversight. We in Connect support 65 individuals that live all over St. Louis County. Our public funding is only in St. Louis County at this time. There are other agencies that work in St. Louis City, St. Charles County, Jefferson County, and we hope to expand in the future, but right now we support 65 people who live in their own apartments or home in St. Louis County. In addition, we are working with 8 individuals who currently live at home with their parents and want to move out in the next couple of years. So we're working on skills individually with these people to get ready to move out. Okay, so again, back to the funding. Productive Living Board takes a line item from your personal property tax and then allocates it towards this service. So it's in St. Louis County, it's through Productive Living Board, and what it pays for is the staffing piece of it. It does not pay any sort of rent or utilities. People have to be able to afford their own housing. And then the funding pays for my team and myself to go work with people to set up systems and to move towards being safe. So what that looks like is up to 11 hours a week, which is generally a staff person coming 2 or 3 times a week to meet with a person. So the qualifications for this funding is pretty straightforward. For this funding through Productive Living Board, you have to be a St. Louis County resident. You have to have a diagnosis of developmental disability, which is intellectual disability, autism, cerebral palsy, seizure disorder, or a learning disability if it really affects functioning in a person's life. They also have to be living independently. So what does that mean? With or without a roommate in their own apartment or house. What it eliminates, it can't be for a person who's living at home with their parents. Like, the whole goal of this program is for people to be living independently. And the big qualification is that a person has to be safe with this limited amount of supports. So it can be a team. I mean, it is a team approach. Safe with parents and families still involved, staff through the ARC involved. Sometimes we have other providers involved, but it is, again, not for somebody who needs 24/7, or even it's not for somebody who needs somebody to be there every day, like to give medication. That's not who this program is designed for. And we want to be very careful that we are never saying well, this person doesn't have staffing, doesn't have funding for 24/7, so we'll do this because it's what we have. Like, that's our number one priority, is that people in our program are safe. So although St. Louis ARC does not currently have funding in other counties, there are other agencies in City of St. Louis, St. Charles County, Franklin County that do have funding for it. If you go to PLB's website, you can find those other agencies. Okay, so I would like to talk for a few minutes about what I have seen over the years. So I started this program at the ARC 25 years ago, working with one individual who was never going to get funding through DMH, and I started trying to help him live in his own apartment. And then it grew to a few people, and then a few more people. And what I really saw was that people could move out to their own apartment and become isolated. They could be really by themselves, which is counterproductive to everything that we want to do. So we have been working for many years on figuring out how to help people connect with other people in their community. And a big piece of that is, who do you live with and who do you live around? So there's many different models at this point. The simplest is a person comes to us and wants to move out. We help them find their own apartment, move into their first apartment, and sometimes people are very independent and they already have friends and a social life, and it goes very smoothly. The next sort of level is that a person really wants a roommate. And so we do our best to help a person find a roommate and then move into their apartment. And then we help with, like, how do you get along with a roommate? How do you divide your chores? How do you delegate maintenance stuff? Just how do you pay the bills? All those sorts of things. So two people sharing an apartment can also be cost effective. Cheaper than renting an apartment on your own. We have also seen 3 or 4 people going together and renting a house where there's enough space for everybody. And that has its pros. It also has its challenges, but we have seen that work really well. One thing that we are currently doing is that we have 4 guys living in one apartment community. They each have their own apartment and they do a lot of things together. So they have a lot of meals together. They go to the gym together. So they have their own space and they also have community. We are continually trying to find models that have that community piece built in, because we feel it's so important for the people we support, but it also allows us to leverage our staff. So if each person receives up to 10 or 11 hours a week, that can be 40 hours a week for 4 people. It's still divided between each person, but it allows a larger presence of the staff. So staff can be checking in with each person, 5 days a week rather than 2 days a week. And lastly, we just continue to try to develop models. We're always looking at what models across the country people are trying, what works, what doesn't work. And I'm happy to talk with parents who are interested in some other model that they have in mind. Okay, so what does support in this program look like? 10 or 11 hours a week. It usually looks like staff meeting with a person 2 to 3 times a week, especially initially. Oftentimes it can be heavier staffing when a person first moves out, and then tapers off a little bit as a person gets their routine and gets used to their new place. Generally, the staff go to a person's apartment or home and meets with them, and then may head out from there to go to the grocery store or go to a doctor's appointment, whatever it is. Each person has goals that they have set out in a plan, and it's very specific to each person, whatever it is that they want to work on. Although the caveat is we do not work on employment goals. There's a whole other ARC department that works on that. And then staff keeps that in mind as they help a person plan out. So the person may say, I want to work towards being healthier, exercising a few times a week, and I want to learn to cook some additional things, and I want to get more organized with all the mail coming in and bills to be paid and so forth. So keeping that in mind, the staff meet with the person, and then they have to consider, like, what's happening today? Like, can we work on your goals, or, you know, has something totally unpredicted come up? So we troubleshoot and try to prioritize and really just help a person keep moving in the right direction. So the person and staff decide together what's most important for that day. And then just some general things, like we help people get to the grocery store, we help people get to the doctor and fully communicate with their healthcare team. We help people pay their bills. That can be done all different ways. Sometimes families totally manage the finances, and you know, everything's done online, all different. We help with managing medication, healthcare, budgeting, just whatever the person really needs help with. And then in my mind, one of the biggest things is that we help people figure out what they want their social life to look like, what they are looking for in friendships, how do they manage their relationships, and how do they grow in their relationships. And so we talk a lot about relationships, and that really fills up 10 hours a week quickly. So that's a general overview. It's different for different people. It's very person-centered. Mary Ann, what are you wondering about our Connect program?
Well, I think that you've done a really great job of putting it out there. I think your Connect program is just fantastic. And, you know, I think that a big piece that you kind of talked about is that you're there to support people to be able to help manage, but you're not managing for them.
Right.
So it's for them to really be as independent as they possibly can.
That is the whole goal, that people are as independent as possible and that they grow relationships with other people so that they need us less and less.
And, you know, just that whole piece of planning, it's looking at what's the best life, what's the life that they want to have, and putting that piece together and continue to assess, because I think our lives change as time goes on, and our support needs change sometimes too. I mean, even that personally, that can change from time to time. So that reevaluation and that plan on an annual basis, and talking about what's important to them and to the family, is really is ideal.
Beth, during the move out phase, does PLB or DMH cover you and your team's services, or does the family pay for this?
PLB pays for, we have two different programs. One is called pre-ISLA, pre-independent living. we can work with an individual for up to 2 years to move out. It's a very small program. It's only funding for 8 people, but we are slowly adding one person at a time to that program. And then if a person really is ready to move out, we can work with a person, a few months to identify where they want to live, try to find a roommate and move out. PLB does pay for that within our grant.
What age is most common for family members to get started or to get shared living?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that question.
I think that it depends on the family situation, it depends on the whole situation.
People out there getting funding raise an age between, I'd say, I've seen people out there who are 16, 17, 18 who are getting funding all the way through the gambit of, older individuals as well.
In either scenario, how much access do family members have?
Good question. The way that things are set up is that we want families to be able to have the relationship that they want with their, as a family unit. And we have people who go home every weekend, who go out to dinner with their family members throughout the course of the week. Sometimes people will spend the night at their family's house, Friday, Saturday, come back on Sunday. It's really very much a family decision as to how that looks. But coming into the home is definitely, to have dinner or a party, a family gathering are all very appropriate.
What qualifies someone to be part of the pre-ISLA program that Beth was talking about?
Good question. Somebody who we anticipate will be able to live independently in the next couple of years, somebody who is willing and able to work towards that. So what that looks like is staff coming out and meeting with a person once a week to work on targeted skills and move towards, it really varies. Some people are not ready to even talk about it, so the staff are just introducing the idea to somebody who just needs a few more skills before they're ready. It's an evaluation. Having done it as long as we have, we kind of know it when we see it, but it's somebody who is within 2 years of being able to live on their own.
Thank you for being here and spending this time with us. We're hopeful that the information that you received met your needs, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks so much for all the thoughtful questions, and if I can be of further assistance, please shoot me an email.
Likewise. Thank you very much.